If you're trying to follow God in your calling, this might be an interesting story for you. This trend is going around talking about the butterfly effect. Now, instead of a butterfly effect, I might call it the God effect. I think God really orchestrated all this for me and him, and ultimately my career and his calling on my life. So I was always trying to look for my husband. I went and served overseas. I thought I would definitely marry a foreign man. And that didn't happen. I lived in Northern Ireland for a while. So I came home and I was like, what am I going to do now? Started going back to college, and I'd always been involved in youth ministry. So I went and got involved in youth ministry again. So I was a volunteer there. And then one day, this new guy came. And honestly, I thought he was a student. He's not a student. He is a youth volunteer that is going to be helping out with us. So where did this guy come from? He went to Liberty University in Virginia. The guy that got hired at my home church that I have been in since I was a baby. We live in California, Southern California. Okay, the guy that got hired to be the youth pastor at my home church was the RA at Liberty. So while my husband was at college, his parents had moved to my hometown. And while he was deciding what he was going to do next, he was like, well, I'm just going to move home with my parents. They happen to live in that town. He has a different girlfriend at the time. They are at Target, okay? They run into this guy who's been hired as the youth pastor at my church. They run into each other like, wait. And this, by the way, is not in Virginia. What are you doing here from Liberty? And the guy is like, I just got hired at this local church. And my husband was like, oh, I just moved home. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. And so the pastor says, well, come be a volunteer at our youth group. And he was like, great, I'll be happy to do that. I was not interested in him at the time. It just wasn't on my radar at all. And plus he had a girlfriend, and I wasn't thinking about him in that way at all. And so eventually over time, he broke up with his girlfriend, and I would see him staring at me, and our friends started suggesting us to one another. Actually happened is I thought I was funny, and call me sacrilegious if you want, but he would always leave his phone. He still does. He just leaves his phone anywhere. He left his phone today when he had to do a work thing. And so I picked up his phone. I reprogrammed my name in his phone as God. I know. And then I thought it would be funny to text him something funny. So the next day I text him, if you're looking for a sign, this is one. And he thought a church had gotten hold of his number and was marketing to him or something. So long story short, his friends end up figuring out that it's my number. So he calls me. I kept thinking I don't know if I'm interested in him. I kept waiting to get the ick, and I just never kept getting it. So I was like, okay, so we went to Starbucks, and that was fine. I was like, we'll see. And so one night we had this conversation, and the thing that it was immediately I knew it was him was that he told me things that he liked about me that most people didn't know about me. It was things that I value about myself, and I was like, whoa, who is this guy? And I know you always hear it, but he really did feel like home. And as someone who was constantly kind of on the lookout for my husband, he just didn't come in the package or in the way or, the time that I thought that he would, because that's the way that God works a lot of the time. And so immediately both of us knew. And so to make a long story short, we said, okay, we're dating in April. Okay. So we started talking maybe in the new year sometime. I don't remember, but I remember we were official in April. We were engaged in July, and we were married in November. Okay. So I told him when we were dating, we were talking about our dreams, what are your dreams? And I said, I want to be a author and a speaker. And he thought, that's weird, because I think only like doctors or professional people can do that. And I was like, wow, okay. So anyways, through our life, we have just kind of done this thing that wherever, we feel like God's asking us to go, we go. And I can get into all the details of those stories some other time. But if I had not married him, I don't think that today I would be a Christian author published in the Christian industry in the capacity that I am. Because when we got to the point where, we were living in Southern California again, and I saw this job that I thought, there's no way, I hadn't worked in 10 years, okay? And I was like, I'm just gonna apply for it, like on a whim. And so I did, and then I kept going to the next step and the next step and the next step. But this job, okay, also in this story, let's back up just a second. I was just a stay-at-home mom, and he worked all the way till my kids were both in school. And I prayed one year and I said, Lord, if there's any way that you can allow me to go to the She Speaks conference, because I wanted to speak and write. But this conference was in North Carolina, and I was like, how am I going to do that? It's so expensive to go to the conference, to fly there. Like, if there's any way I can go to this conference for free, please let that be the case. I had always felt this call on me, like to write a book, and that this was supposed to be a part of my life, but I had no idea how to do that. So here's the thing as well, like when God calls you to something, he has a path for you. You might not know what it is yet, but he does. And so this job that I was applying for was the company that ran She Speaks. I was like, wow, the job that I was applying for was for a writer's training program. It was to do their social media. So I kept going through the stages, and I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. So, but if I got the job, we would have to move from Southern California to North Carolina. And long story short, I got the job. And my husband, who had an amazing, the best job that he has ever had, the best company, the best position, it was just so good. He left that job for me. We took our kids and we moved into this house that we're sitting in right now, sight unseen. We only ever saw it on Zoom. Like, we were like, oh, we need to get a place. Like, the lady happened to be outside of this house that we're living in, happened to be outside of it when we called her. And she was like, oh, I can show it to you right now if you want it. Rented it, sight unseen, moved across the country, and we've been here ever since. I worked at that position for 4.5 years. I got my first book contract. I met amazing people that I never thought. Who, why, me, there's just no way. And that is the amazing thing of both following God and maybe a butterfly effect that's actually the Lord.